Hello, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to your Watford 4 Manchester United 1 match reaction here on WD18. I think it's one of the most historic wins we've had in the Premier League. You think of the Liverpool game, you think of the Chelsea 4-1 win at home as well. You think of the Arsenal win where Tom Cleverley scored in the last minute. The list goes on. We've had some big wins, but this one's right up there. Watford 4, Manchester United 1. And it has resulted in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's last game. But we don't care about Manchester United on this channel. We care about Watford. And the man we're going to be talking to about Watford today and yesterday's result is Mr. Sam Yuko. Sam, first off, when we were kind of like sorting out the show, you just replied, buzzing, thumbs up, called it emoji. Have you kind of come to terms with what happened yesterday? Because it was a crazy last 10 minutes or so.
It was absolutely wow. Struggling to put into words what was going on because it was all so surreal yesterday. I think it's a long time since we've had sort of a feeling like that as Watford fans. Obviously, the one that springs to mind is Liverpool. But just the whole atmosphere, the whole of Vicarage Road together yesterday, to a man, every single player in there was absolutely exceptional. And I mean, my voice is still a bit croaky from yesterday. Unbelievable limbs, as always in the Rookery when we're beating a big team. And yeah, absolutely buzzing still.
French kiss, mate. And even like Ollie's at the wheel chant, mate. The Rook, tell you what, the 1881 were an absolute fire yesterday.
Brilliant, yeah. And you say that on this channel we don't care about Man United, and the truth is we don't, because all I'm hearing in the media is about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think Jamie Carragher said Watford are an awful side, didn't he? After we just went and turned them out. Jamie Carragher yesterday in his post-match comments talking about Solskjaer going, said Watford are an awful team. That's why he's gone, because it's bad to get embarrassed by them. And that's poor punditry.
I prefer not to speak.
I mean, it wasn't too long ago them lot Liverpool got beaten 3-0 at Vicarage Road as well. So
yeah,
you know,
say that, Sam, we've had some big scalps in the Premier League.
Yeah,
like, obviously this is the biggest one since we've come back. But like to think like I mean, I mentioned it in the intro, the Chelsea game. I think you said it reminded you of that game. The Liverpool win, Man United actually under Walter Mazzarri. We've had some big wins. Like, where would you rank this one overall? Is this like right up there, or?
I'd say it's too early in terms of an isolated game. I'd say it's right up there just because of the performance as well. But in terms of importance, I'd say that Chelsea 4-1 probably goes above it. I'd say that the Arsenal away 2-1 win probably goes above it as well. The 3-0 probably goes above that as well. It's probably it goes into the top 5 out of what we probably had 9 or 10 now. I'd say it's probably in the top half, but probably not quite up there, but still unbelievable day. And I say it reminds me a lot of the Chelsea games because I see so many comparisons with it. I think we were playing against the side whose manager was under pressure on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, like when we played Chelsea and Antonio Conte. I think he got sacked a few weeks after or at the end of the season. I can't remember. We had a player having an absolute disaster class and getting sent off, Bakayoko and Maguire. And we score a few late goals as well to seal the victory. So that's where I see the comparisons there. And also both of them Vicarage Road, under the lights at the end, absolutely bouncing.
You know what? That's a great shout. That did not feel like a 3 o'clock game yesterday.
Definitely.
As I got in the ground, I was like, this feels like a 5:30 on Sky. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, there was a bit of an aura, I thought, with Vicarage Road yesterday.
There's something about Vicarage Road under the lights where something just changes. I don't know what it is. I feel like I think everyone on here, I think we've got 70 people watching now. I think most people will say they probably don't like the 12:30 kickoff. I certainly can't stand it. Don't think as fans we like it. Don't think the players probably like it as much. 3 o'clock, right, it's all right. But those night games at Vicarage Road where the lights go off, floodlights are on, that's when you know it's Watford. There was that poster the other week, wasn't there, where it was going through all the reasons to support Watford, and for me, that's one of them. It's the floodlights. It's Vicarage Road. Absolutely bouncing, and yesterday was just incredible.
Yeah, huge shout out to the Golden Pages fanzine who put that poster together. Absolutely superb. Lovely comment from Nick G. Did it for Kev. He would have been well happy with that. Obviously, the really sad news that Kevin Norman, who followed Watford home and away and England home and away, he sadly passed away last week. And a lovely touch on the 60th minute mark with a round of applause, which is great to see. Big shout out to the 1881 who raised the banner as well, which was a lovely touch. Sam, look, we're going to dive straight into it, and thank you to everyone who's joined us this evening. I think look. There's so much to unpack here. 5 goals, a red card, and there was a lot of stuff going on. But I think we'll strip it right back to the lineups. And it was a change team. I think probably the big headline from Watford perspective was Imran Loser coming into that number 6 role, the number 6 playing in the number 6 role. What were your initial thoughts on the lineup and how Ranieri set us up against United?
It didn't surprise me. I put on my predicted lineup, I think on Thursday or Friday, and I got 9 out of the 11. I think the only ones I got wrong were the fullbacks. I thought he'd go with Rose and Ngakia. I thought he'd go with. Yeah. And I thought that, so the team didn't surprise me at all, particularly that midfield. I think with the options available to us, I think it was pretty straightforward that Imran Loser would play. I know he hasn't had a lot of game time, but I think this was going to be the time for him to shine now. And the last question would be whether it was Tom Cleverley, Dan Gosling, or João Pedro in there. Obviously, João did make a massive impact, and we'll talk about João because there's no one I'm more pleased for yesterday than him. Wow, we'll talk about that later on in the show. But I thought Tom Cleverley yesterday was absolutely brilliant, absolutely sensational. I'm probably the biggest Tom Cleverley fan. I think everyone knows on the channel how much I love Tom. Never say a bad word against him. But I just thought the midfield 3 looked so balanced yesterday. And that was the area where everyone, I think, was interested to see how we'd line up. Because something did need to change from Arsenal. I think things just didn't look too balanced in there. I don't know, maybe that's something doesn't look right with Ozan 2 fan to me. Maybe that's me being harsh, but yesterday that 3 just worked perfectly together. And maybe it's not one for every week, but I think certainly that base of Sissoko and Loser and then switching it up between maybe Tufan, Cleverley and João Pedro, depending on the game, I think is the way forward for us.
Yeah, it's a great point. Look, I mean, the fact is Kutska wasn't available to play
as well. I forgot about Kutska.
As you said, he was suspended. You know, Tufan, we've seen him play against Arsenal. I think the jury's still out on him, but the balance, as you say, Sam, with that midfield 3 of Loser just sitting in that kind of deep lying playmaker role. You had Tom Cleverley, who kind of set the precedent, really, set the tone and the intensity of the Watford performance. And then it allowed Moussa Sissoko, who I feel is better in a more advanced position because we've seen him holding the role since obviously Peter Atiba has been injured. But I absolutely agree with you, Sam, there, where you said like Cleverley and Sissoko, 2 maybe of not in all respect the most technically gifted of players, but what they give you is legs, they give you physicality, and they give you intensity, right? And I think that's probably what we needed yesterday, as you said.
Yeah, I said this to you as well. I think there was a combination of the atmosphere at Vicarage Road and the midfield press. The United players looked absolutely terrified of us. I think there was a point I remember, or even if you look at the penalty, I think it was it Bruno Fernandes just completely swiped at the ball. And I think that was just because, you know, they were absolutely terrified of us stepping onto them. There was a time where Luke Shaw, I remember, gave the ball away. Maguire gave it away about 5 or 6 times probably. That's all from the press. And Tom Cleverley is the one I'm going to focus on because he does not get enough credit still at all. I don't really know what more he has to show to show that he should be one of the first names on the team sheet in my eyes. All right, not in every game. It's a bit of an exaggeration, I think. But in certain games, like the ones where we're going to need to be running off the ball, such as against Man United, we got Chelsea and Man City coming up. Tom Cleverley has to be one of those first names on the team sheet because it's his desire, it's his effort, it's his leadership that gets us further up the pitch. And ultimately, I think he was a key reason why we won yesterday. I think he got the club's man of the match as well that they announced at the end of the game. So fully deserved for Tom.
Absolutely. And Charlotte says in the comment, Clev should be the first name on the team sheet every week. He's the beating heart of the club. Now we've lost Troy. I think that's a very fair point in terms of the leadership aspect as well, as Charlotte says in the comment section. Look, I think we'll probably the one. Look, there's so much to talk about. I don't know where to start. You know, you mentioned the penalty there, Sam.
Yeah.
That whole situation was really weird because the one bit I wanted to. I mean, for me, it was a penalty. But then with Kiko intruding on the area, it was then weird that we got to take it again, I thought.
Yeah, that rule needs to change. If that was against us, I'd be fuming. That rule does need to change. Yeah, if it's your own... I
didn't understand what was going on, really.
Yeah, if it's your own player encroaching, it should probably be the other team's free kick. I was worried about Sarr at that point because those 2 penalties, he looked absolutely gutted after that. And then there was about 2-3 minutes after, I think he had the ball twice. There was one where he completely lost control of the ball and one where he just gave it away. Fans were getting on his back a bit, frustrated. He was seemingly frustrated. His shoulders were down, his head was down. But then if we just jump to the second goal while we're talking about Sarr, what a finish. Unbelievable. Absolutely clinical. Tom Cleverley and Kiko Feminira in that corner, just grafting away, getting the ball back and getting the ball to Sarr, who did the rest and just smashed it past David De Gea. I didn't realise how good it was because I sat in the rookery behind the goal. I thought it was closer and less of a tight angle. But just to tuck it into the corner like that was why we're probably going to sell him in the summer for 40, 50 million quid. He's yesterday proved his worth. I know he's had a tough time under, probably since Ranieri's come in. He's had a tough few games, but yesterday, you know, at stages after the penalty miss, he looked like a different player. Looked so good, looked so free. And I think that's probably down to Ranieri's man management. Probably he's able to put an arm around him from the touchline and say, look, head up, carry on. And he was absolutely brilliant yesterday after a difficult start for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing is with Sarr, he's one of those characters where an event like that almost fires him up a bit and he steps up his game a bit more.
Yeah.
I think we've noticed that just over the years. Like if he has a little bit of a slow start or someone gives him a challenge or maybe lays a glove on him, then he raises the level a bit. Even like in the first half where he like bulldozed Ronaldo over. Like do you see that 50-50 just in the centre circle? Sarr was like, he was up for it. And I think one point to mention, Sam, is, you know, we know he's been low on confidence. People have been questioning his position in the side. I think that's wrong personally, because I think it'd be ridiculous to drop him.
You say that. I thought I said not perhaps in these games. I said last week, I think there could be, if this continued from Sarr, I thought there would perhaps be a time where we have to take him out of the team, just to give him some time to, you know, sort of take the spotlight off him, give him some time to clear his head. That wasn't to say to drop him. I just think for the benefit of the player, perhaps it would have been beneficial to take some time out. But I agree, when he's playing like that, you can't take him out of the side.
You can't take him out. And also, just to add to that, the fact that he had the bottle really to take that on from that position, like a lot of players would not be taking that on. They'd be taking a touch and they'd be looking to play backwards, or they'd be looking to square it. For him to just unleash that, I mean, it's a brilliant finish from Sarr. Just going back onto a point someone said about the penalty. Apparently there were I haven't watched it back, so I do apologise. Manchester United players were encroaching as well. Not just Kiko, according to the comment section. So that was the reason it was retaken. But you could see why, if it wasn't explained properly, you wouldn't, it wouldn't go down pretty well. But look, Sam, we got that goal through Sarr. We got the Sarr goal. But just before that, Joshua King, who I thought led the line really well, Sam. Like, he's on a free transfer. I mean, people, you know, Dennis is getting a lot of the plaudits, Sarr's getting a lot of attention, but I thought King's role yesterday was underrated, because he was brilliant in, you know, playing as a lone striker is difficult enough, but then he was he started out on the left, drifted out into the middle. Do you feel he's better on the left than he is in the centre, or?
What's good is that for once we can say we've got a versatile front three at Watford. Players who aren't just stuck to one position. I would say with Josh King, it depends on the game as well. I know it's a really boring answer, but I think there are certain games where at Everton, he completely bullied the Everton centre-halves. Obviously, he got that hat-trick, but his all-round gameplay was absolutely brilliant. But having Dennis running at the likes of Maguire yesterday through the middle really caused problems. So, you know what? I unfortunately live with a mate who's a Bournemouth fan at uni, and it is unfortunate at times with how well they're doing this season. But he said to me the other day, he went, Josh King is scoring because he loves playing Man United. He's got something small against them after his history with them. At Bournemouth, he scored a few times against them, and yesterday he was absolutely superb. It's generally just the way he sets up. As a striker, is probably one of the most complete forwards we've seen in the Pozzo era in terms of what he can do as a striker. So absolutely buzzing for him against Man United as well, as we said, and yeah, hopefully he can keep up this form.
I thought it was a stroke of genius actually from Ranieri. You know, we could talk about individual performances, but I think for him to drift him out onto the left hand side and basically say, look, we're going to target Wan-Bissaka. We know that he's Man United's weak link, particularly in the back line. We know if we can pin him back, we can cause him all sorts of problems. And Ranieri basically said, look, if you play direct into King, he's going to win most of the duels. And that was absolutely right. And it was Sean in the comments said that as well. Looked like King on the left was the game plan to play long balls into Wan-Bissaka. And just before I go back onto the penalty, apologies for this. There's so much to dissect it. Ranieri, the way he set up Watford, I know we touched on the lineup, but the key parts of it, what stood out to you? So, i.e., King drifting onto Wan-Bissaka, Loser playing a little bit deeper, Cleverley setting the press. What particularly pleased you, and what did you note from Ranieri in terms of the way he set up tactically?
I thought we utilised every area of the pitch really well, and that sounds straightforward to say, But the fact is, he got every single player doing simple tasks, as Lewin says, against a poorly coached Man United side, which allows us in a way just to sort of do our thing. One area that I thought was really, really well set up were both the fullbacks, Messina, Kiko Femenea. Both of them, when they went forward, it was a really good time. It was really intelligent runs forward. When they went back, it was well-timed challenges on recovery as well. I thought Jadon Sancho had a good game, and Messina or Kiko, I can't remember which one who was marking him, had a really good game taking care of him. And Marcus Rashford was taking off at half time, probably still recovering from injury, but also because our fullbacks did so well containing him. And I thought that area of the pitch was definitely something worked on during the week. We exploited Man United with it. Kiko Femenea looked like the Kiko Femenea from last season. I'll just talk about that now because there's two players who I've sort of, when we've done badly this season, I've sort of gone in on. And not badly, not just on their performances. I thought Kiko Femenea, I said a few weeks ago, I thought he'd been one of our poorest players this season. And I was calling for Ngakia to come back in, and Ngakia did really well when he came in. But Femenea yesterday was absolutely outstanding. Against Arsenal, he was outstanding as well. He was so good. Like the player we saw last season, the connection with Sarr was back as well. And all right, they might not get that freedom every single game, but hopefully that gives Femenea some confidence. Gutted his goal was disallowed as well, but ultimately it was him encroaching.
He took it very well.
He did. He's banging finish for a fullback.
You know what, Sam? I put it out there. I think that's the best performance I've seen from Kiko.
Yeah,
I think that was right up there. Honestly, I was trying to think of other performances. I remember that first season under Marco Silva, he looked good. Yeah. I remember like the way he was good. But I think the biggest compliment that we can pay to Kiko is Solskjaer had to take off Rashford and bring on Martial because Kiko literally had him in his back pocket. I mean,
I don't know if Martial touched the ball yesterday even.
Honestly, it was anonymous. The way Kiko was linking up with Cleverley, that connection with Sarr down the right-hand side as well. I mean, that was just a joy to watch. That actual right-hand side was probably the most pleasing aspect of the whole Watford performance for me. Yeah. Kiko, Cleverley, Sarr just dominated it. Absolutely dominated it.
And as I said, the other man as well who I've sort of been a bit, don't want to say harsh, but critical of his performances this season is Ben Foster. All right, we're not going to talk about the YouTube now because we're talking about his performances. But the Arsenal game and yesterday's game, absolutely brilliant in both of them. Looked so good. 2 saves he made. One in the first half from, I think it was Rashford. I couldn't really see it from the rookery, but it looked like a really good save. And the other one was Cristiano Ronaldo, the one-on-one. So easy for a goalkeeper. I was watching the Arsenal highlights back, and you see Ramsdale go down from Diogo Jota, and Jota goes round him. So easy for a goalkeeper to go down like that, and for a player like Ronaldo just to go past. But Foster stood up, made the save, and that ultimately kept us. We were winning at the time, but it did keep us in the game and give us a platform to go on and win it. Because if United had equalised, I've got no doubt we would have gone on to lose 3-2.
He made the save in the first half. The way I think it was one where he had to have a really strong arm down to his right hand side. I thought that's save that. Yeah. And even he was good yesterday, Foster.
Yeah, he was really. His kicking's improved, and just on that, he got the assist as well for the 4th goal. But aside from that, something that's good with Foster. All right, we have questioned his distribution at times, but I like how it's his experience, his intelligence of when to release the ball is really, really good. And all right, sometimes he does hit it, or he goes out of play, or misses everyone completely. But he was really good at knowing when to slow down the play yesterday, or when to release off quick plays on the counter attack, and that was crucial for us yesterday.
Absolutely. Right, let's have a little look through your comments. Thank you to everyone who's watching this evening, 100 of you, which is absolutely amazing. Look, there's a bit of chat in the comment section, Sam, just going back to the penalty situation. Did you see what happened with Sarr and King? They were having a bit of a discussion. So Sarr basically took the ball, and King was talking to him because King's got a good penalty record for starters, and he took the penalties at Bournemouth. King was King was trying to angle that he was going to take it, and then he was like, gave Sarr a hug and basically spoke to him. But I don't know. I just feel like it's one of those things. If we're going to have one negative for yesterday, surely just have a designated penalty taker before the game starts, rather than
surely there must have been though. That's the thing. I mean, it's quite new at Watford, isn't it? Because normally it would just be Troy without question. It would be him taking the ball, and if anyone else asked for it, they were completely ridiculous. But I imagine there was a designated penalty taker, and I'm sure that will be something that Ranieri will probably discuss with the players who takes penalties. I can't imagine Sarr will get another one anytime soon, particularly if Josh King is on the pitch. But yeah, it was a bit strange. I didn't really see that happening.
Yeah, it
Do
was
you think?
interesting.
Do you think that after the encroachment, it had to be Sarr to retake the penalty, and we couldn't change the taker?
I think you can change the taker.
Mm.
I think you can change it, but I think it would have hit Sarr for 6. That I think you've got to give it to him regardless.
Yeah.
Like Craig says, he thinks Sarr's penalties were very poor, and King should have taken it in his opinion. There was just on Sarr. Charlotte Gibson says, any news on Sarr's injury? He showed real courage yesterday. Hope he's not out for the coming games. Now, I think from what we're reading, a lot the substitutions that were made yesterday. The Sarr one, obviously, in particular. Obviously, Nicholas and Kulu coming off as well. Loser, Sarr, they're all precautionary. Obviously, Nkulu's taken a bit of time to get up to fitness. Imran Loser, that's his first real, I mean, it's a huge game, but also playing from the start. He played away at Brighton, but came off at half-time, didn't he? But with Sarr, that was the one I was a bit worried about, Sam, because I thought, I don't want this to be another Stella Faye situation where he's like done his ACL and, it tarnishes what was a really like memorable evening. But from what we understand and what we're reading, it isn't too serious. Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
you never know what's injury department. So
yeah, exactly. I think it was from the Rickery end replied to my tweet about saying how I got deja vu from Sarr's injury with Deulofeu after beating Liverpool. Then after beating Man United, we've got another one of our best players getting a knee injury. Just felt all too similar and familiar as a Watford fan. But I think from the Rickery end replied to my tweet to that and said that when they were recording, they saw Sarr hobbling past yesterday. I'm not sure if he was in a boot, but I think it's encouraging as well. He tried to get up and carry on, but he simply couldn't. From what we're hearing, I think Ranieri mentioned, I think it could just be probably missed the Leicester game just as a precaution and then back for Chelsea and Man City the week after. So certainly it's not someone we should be risking. And we've got plenty of attacking talent going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't risk Ismaila Sarr. One more question before we kind of dig into the second half, which had so much going on as well. Sean says, what do you make of Ranieri giving Sissoko the captaincy? Probably a man management decision to get the best out of the player, but I think players like Cleverley or Cathcart should be given it. Sam, what do you make of that, mate?
I'm not too fussed as long as players are showing leadership through their performances. And Tom Cleverley does that. We'll talk about Craig Cathcart in a sec, but just on Sissoko, I think he's a player who's experienced, who's played in World Cups, he's played in the Euros, he's played in Premier League title races, the Champions League final. He's a player who has captain credibility and probably has got a really good relationship with Ranieri already, as we can see. I think there was an embrace between them at full time. And if he sees Sissoko as captain, then I've seen nothing yet to suggest that it shouldn't be the case. Sissoko's performances are backing up. He's been absolutely brilliant. And someone else's performances who have been superb is Craig Cathcart. Absolutely brilliant, along with Nkulu at the back. Cathcart, again, another one who's been, people have been, really critical of him. And I think justified at times. I think at Everton, he looked really dodgy. And a couple of other times this season as well. I don't think William Troost-Ekong is any better, to be honest. I'd much rather trust Craig Cathcart. But he just looked so composed on the ball yesterday. There was a lot of bouncing balls going back that Ronaldo looked like he was about to latch onto, that Cathcart just calmly headed back to Ben Foster. And he was the same thing at Arsenal as well. So hopefully he can keep up the performances, because I think he's really silencing his critics at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right about Nkudu as well. He's a class operator. You can tell. I don't even think he's fully fit yet, but this guy, you could just tell he's got a lot of experience.
And I think it was
Ranieri comfortable on the ball. It's good.
I think it was Ranieri mentioned midweek as well, how he's already taken up a sort of leadership role in the dressing room with all his experience. And that can only be a good thing as well. It just seems, just on a side point, that after Arsenal, I know the performance picked up, but going into the international break, I thought there was another bit of a slump in the fan base, just a bit more. Everyone was buzzing after that Everton win, and then following that up with Southampton and a couple of other poor performances as well. It's just been a bit of a downer again, a bit worried again. But I think yesterday was really needed just as a fan base going into the Christmas period, difficult games coming up. There are teams below us who look bad, by the way, who I would be worried about, and above us as well. I think Brentford are quietly sliding down the table. No one are really taking much notice of that. So I think it's a good time for us to sort of get behind the team, get together as a fan base, and hopefully, we can pick up some more points in the coming weeks.
That is a really good point, Sam, just in terms of like the league table before we delve into the second half. Brentford, who have, become, in my opinion, the kind of new Bournemouth in the sense that they are getting a lot of media attention, a lot of media praise. And look, I'm a big fan of how they operate as a football club. But, look, 12 games in, 13 points, and Watford are also on 13 points. So I think it's just a reminder to all of us how, number one, how quickly it can change. And number two, how tight it is at the bottom. Newcastle on 6, Norwich 8, Burnley 9, but 9 points.
Leeds look bad. They were okay today in the first half, but that injury list as well is ridiculous. They're really missing Patrick Bamford. Rafinha was out today again. So we're not all right. We're not going to talk about the relegation battle, but as well, Norwich with that new manager bounce, they're back in contention again now. You really never know in football, so it's really congested, and we needed that win yesterday because if we're being all right, we could get something next week at Leicester, but we're probably not going to get anything against Chelsea and Man City. So we needed that win just to keep things ticking over.
Yeah, I mean, even before the game, Sam, if you said, "Oh, look, would you take a point?" I would have snapped your hand off for a point, let alone a win, and let alone a 4-1 win. In terms of how that played out, Sam, look, we'll go into the second half. I think it was almost inevitable with those sort of games that you knew United were going to come out the traps quickly. Solskjaer brought on Martial and Donny van der Beek, who obviously scored their goal. I think from a Watford perspective, though, number one, could we have done better with the goal? And secondly, I was actually really pleased with the reaction because I thought, you know what, we could have easily crumbled there, but we showed a bit of bottle. I know this is before the red card, but in that 15-minute period where they start, look, United have momentum. It's almost inevitable with the quality they have. Man for man, they're a better team than us as individuals. So you knew they were going to have a spell in the game. They were going to put us under cosh, but I thought we dealt with it well. And I think other Watford teams in the past would have crumbled a little bit in that point.
No, definitely. You say other Watford teams in the past. The Watford team a month ago under Xisco Munoz, I reckon, would have crumbled. And I think that's where it comes down to Ranieri because we kept on pressing. We didn't sit back. What would have really annoyed me is because it was 2 minutes into the second half, so it wasn't like we had to change the game plan drastically, and we didn't. We didn't put 11 men behind the ball and start just trying to, put the ball in the corner after 52 minutes or whatever it was. We carried on trying to get the goals. We carried on pressing, and what was really interesting as well, even when it was 2-1 with going into stoppage time at the end, ref puts up 5 minutes. We're going, here we go. It's Fergie time. It's the last 5 minutes. We all know what happens now. Ronaldo 90 plus 7 minute equaliser sort of thing. They hardly had the ball in stoppage time. I was expecting them to be putting balls into the box and Ronaldo to be winning them and Lindelof and that sort of thing. But we kept the ball. We didn't even go into the corner. We went and scored 2 more goals, and that for me was the most pleasing thing. I think the players really buying into what Ranieri's doing. I said this after Arsenal. I think there is progress there. I think there's a style of play developing. I think these players are actually being coached. I love Xisco Munoz, but I think these players are actually being coached by someone properly experienced now, who knows exactly what they're doing for each match sort of scenario. He's been there and done that, and he's not learning on the job. And I think he's doing. I love Ranieri. I kind of, in a way, I'm not the only Watford fan who says I'd adopt him as my grandpa if I could. What a bloke. I love him. What a guy.
We've got to get him on the channel. How cool would that be?
Oh, dilly ding, dilly dong. Let's get it done.
Let's have a pizza. Look, we'll go to L'artista in Watford, have a pizza with Ranieri. One, just on Claudio, actually. Substitutions, brave substitution, particularly the João Pedro on is the one that sticks out for me. It's worked an absolute treat. But you look at the 3 substitutions that he made. William Troost-Ekong coming on for Nkulu, which was obviously he's feeling his hamstring a little bit, I think, Nkulu, and it was just, as I said, a precautionary measure. He then takes off Ismail Assar again. Looked more serious, but Cucho comes on, puts in a good shift. But it's that final substitution, Sam, when João Pedro scores. He comes on for Imran Louza. That is a brave call, regardless of whether Manchester United have 10 men. Basically, what you're saying is we're taking off a deep-lying player, so a defensive player or in that area anyway, and bringing on an attacking midfielder, a striker converted to a midfielder, and it worked an absolute treat. So it kind of backs up your point, mate, that Ranieri is getting the calls right, and we've seen with his substitutions, Everton away, Man United at home, this guy is getting it right again, and probably substitution that we wouldn't expect him to make.
I was shocked when João came on. Yeah, I was so surprised when João came on. I don't think many fans in the ground would probably have made that change. I think was Gosling on the bench yesterday? Because I think
Gosling.
there were a few people around me who were thinking it would be Dan Gosling to come on just to sort of just run basically. And it wasn't really a time where you needed a player with much technical ability. You just needed someone just to close down the ball. And Gosling with fresh legs, perhaps would have, just helped us with that, gone into the Tom Cleverley role. But João Pedro coming on added that sort of technical excellence, carried on running while he was on the pitch, made the Man United players struggle a lot, and got his goal as well, which I think we have to touch on now.
Yeah, mate, 100%. I mean, what a moment for him. Like, I don't think anyone else deserves it more than João. Like, great finish as well. Rolled Lindelof, smashed it in, and then obviously the emotion came pouring out when the goal went in. Lovely moment, Sam. Like, yeah. I mean, it gave me goosebumps actually, even like seeing the pictures back, the emotion of João, and also what was lovely to see was all the players gathering around him. I think King was like embracing him. Like, you saw all the players on social media sending their support to João and sending their love to João. Like, yeah, really special moment that, Sam. Really special.
Yeah, really, really special moment. Buzzing for him. I think that's the only way to say it. I think every Watford fan sort of, as you say, it gives you goosebumps to think about sort of the mental strength he's been through in the last few weeks. Because I don't think, did he go back to Brazil or not? I'm not too sure.
I don't know, but I mean, look, he played in the Arsenal game.
Yeah. So he can't have spent, if he did, he can't have spent too long with his family at the moment, who are on the other side of the world, while he's still learning here in England, still adapting to the culture, and playing in one of the biggest seasons of his career in the Premier League, putting himself on the map. And so the mental resilience he's shown is absolutely brilliant. And that goal, in a way, really topped off not just the last few weeks for João, but what's been an incredible journey for him over the last 2 seasons, since he got his first goal in the Championship against Luton, I think it was, to now against Man United. I think Watford put a tweet out earlier saying when he got presented to the fans against Man United in 2019 to now getting his first goal in the Premier League. He's a player who's worked hard on his body, on his technical ability, on his intelligence, and he's only going to get better. I'm buzzing for João Pedro, and hopefully there's more to come.
Yeah, 100%. Well said, mate. Look, I think the other man we've got to be talking about as well, obviously a special moment for João, and someone who also deserved the goal, I thought, was Emmanuel Dennis. I thought he was brilliant yesterday, Sam. And Lou Orns, I think he put a tweet out just in terms of like his output this season, and we put a tweet out on WD18. You know, it's 10 starts this season for Emmanuel Dennis, 4 goals, 5 assists, and he cost just above £3.5 million.
6 yellow cards as well.
6 yellow cards as well. And a lot of decent celebrations. I mean, this guy's the king. He is the king of celebration.
He does
the Ronaldo celebration that Bernard about. He lifts the top up when he scores.
Does the Maguire. Class.
So amazing. But Sam, his overall game was superb again for us.
Yeah. Just carried on running the whole game pretty much, and really putting in those defensive yards. I was really sort of, people saying play Dennis on. I only played up front yesterday, but in terms of the ones saying playing him on the left, I was really sort of hesitant with that because I was worried about his defensive duties. But the press from the front yesterday from him was so good. Just getting at the feet of those Man United players, and it's his personality as well. I think something that Watford fans absolutely loved a few years ago was Jose Holebas, and just the idea of Jose Holebas, just someone just said that straight away. It's not just the yellow cards; it's the way that he's a cult hero at Vicarage Road. Everyone just loves the way he gets into the opposition head, the goal celebrations, the goals, the assists, the output generally. Everyone loves Emmanuel Dennis. He's only going to get better, and I just hope that we don't have anyone knocking on the door in January or in the summer.
Yeah, great point. I was about to say that because I'm not going to lie, Sam. Let's look outside the top 6. He's probably got one of the best outputs so far this season.
I think he's got the second best in the Premier League, doesn't he? After Salah, I think he's second.
That's unbelievable. But he's been so good, so good. And he, as you said, his personality is infectious. The interview, and I don't know if you saw it. Elliot did the interview with Elliot. Big shout out to Elliot. I know he'll be watching. And Emmanuel Dennis just swearing on the official interview. It's just superb. Oh, mate. So good. Sam, look, kind of like looking overall, there were so many standout performers yesterday. who would you give your man of the match to? Tom Cleverley got it from Watford. Would you agree with that, or would you go with someone else?
Oh, that's a difficult one.
Because
I'd say
loads
for
of
me, moment of the match that wasn't a goal has to be Ben Foster's save.
Yeah.
But I don't think in terms of the outfield plays, generally how everyone played, I'd give it to Tom Cleverley as well. I think he just set the tone generally, getting at the heels of the Man United players. Just looked so sharp, set the tempo, a real performance full of leadership, as I said at the top of the show. For me, it's Tom Cleverley. I think you were a big fan of Kiko yesterday. I think it was brilliant as well.
For me, it's between three. It's you've got that loser as well. He's brilliant.
Yeah,
probably the three that I would go with: Cleverley, Kiko, Dennis.
Yeah.
And then you've got King, who was brilliant as well. You know what? We're going purely off the output. Dennis 2 assists and a goal is like a match-winning performance.
Yeah.
But Cleverley, in terms of the way he set the tone of the game, and then you got Kiko, who put in a brilliant performance. You got King, who was
Adam Messina as well, was brilliant yesterday.
It was Kafka. I mean, the list goes on. I think for me, probably. Oh, that's difficult.
It's a difficult one. I think just while you think about it, I think just something I just thought about with Imran Loser is he's only going to get better. He's played. Let's ignore the Brighton game because he was played completely in the wrong way and he was still getting up to speed. But if we're looking at yesterday, he's pretty much played one game for us. And if he's still getting up to full speed, Ranieri said it's 2-3 months until we see the best of Loser. I originally read that as he's out for 2 or 3 months, but the fact that he thinks that there's still more to come from Loser is really encouraging. And you said at the start of the season in our prediction video, player of the season, if he keeps it up like this, you never know.
You know what? Player of the season was probably a really bold shout, but what I do 100% stand by, there's definitely a player there, 100%. Yeah. I remember when we watched, it was the League Cup game, I think, against Stoke. You know, we went out, but I thought he looked really good in that deeper role, and Cisco played in there. So I think just going back to the original point, I'm going to give it to Dennis for me.
Yeah.
But I actually understand why anyone would go for someone different. But I just think 2 assists, a goal against Man United is a huge contribution that deserves a man of the match award. As Dave Robertson says, though, Craig Kafka deserves an honourable mention. He's doing a tough job really well. Only days after doing the same for Northern Ireland. Absolutely
brilliant as well for Northern Ireland.
Absolutely brilliant. As Mike says, Kafka has a lot of stick this season, and he hasn't had some good games, but the last few's been solid, and I wouldn't change him. And look, 140 of you watching, smash a like. Thank you to all of you watching today. Sam, look, I think we've pretty much covered everything, haven't we?
Should we talk about Solskjaer sacking a bit?
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Clearly he's a lovely man. Like, there's no absolute doubt. I watched his farewell video with the official Man United channels. You could tell it affected him, especially towards the end. He was getting emotional. I do feel sorry for him, probably the wrong word. I feel for him because obviously it's like the dream job and he probably won't get another crack at it. But at the same time, I think everyone knows that he was out of his depth and United needs to move on.
I think he probably deep down knew it. And I don't know, not to be harsh on Solskjaer, but I think there was an element of a lot of Watford fans desperate for him to stay in charge for this game. Because I thought we'd go before the international break, but I just was desperate for him to stay on because we all knew that this was probably... I didn't think we'd win, but there was always a chance for Solskjaer in charge that this was going to happen. They got a massive game midweek now against Villarreal with, I think, was it Michael Carrick and Darren Fletcher and Mike Phelan taking over. So you never know. I have said that it wouldn't shock me if next week when we play Leicester, they don't have a manager because Brendan Rodgers has gone there. But I think now United are just going to look for someone till the end of the season.
Rodgers has got a track record of saying he's going to stay and then he leaves. So
less said about that, the better.
Yeah, I think with if anyone cares, my prediction for the United situation is I think they'll give it Carrick at the end of the season. Now they'll give it to Carrick or an interim appointment, and I think they'll probably go for Ten Hag and Pochettino at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think Pochettino is the favourite. Apparently Zidane's not interested either. So yeah. Interesting to see what happens there.
You know what? Just from what point of view, it's really enjoyable seeing other clubs struggle with managerial situations. We've had our fair view over it at Watford.
But do you know what? Just to credit the Pozzos, I know the United situation is so completely different, but I look at Norwich with Frank Lampard, going for Frank Lampard, getting Dean Smith, or there's been a couple of others in the last few weeks. Tottenham in the summer going for about 5 managers. You have to Newcastle as well. You have to credit the Pozzos because they always have someone lined up to announce the day after or a few hours after. I can't remember who it was who said, but apparently there was contact made with Ranieri after the Newcastle game. So that gave about 3 weeks for him to get to know the team and watch us before they inevitably sacked Xisco Munoz, knowing that would eventually happen. So that's why you have to credit the Pozzos. I don't think the problem's ever been with the timing of sacking the manager. It's been about recruitment, but I love Ranieri. I absolutely love him.
Sounds confident. He's caught feels.
Come back here after Christmas when I'll be calling for his head. But I really like him. I think he's very different to what we've gone for before because he's probably the highest established manager that we've had. In terms of winning a Premier League, managing some of the best clubs in the world. And as I say, it's not like other ones like a Flores or Xisco Munoz, Javi Gracia, where they're learning on the job. He knows what he's doing. He's been in the game for a long time. He knows what's sort of happened already. And in a similar vein to Walter Mazzari, I think they're more proactive managers than reactive managers. And all right, with Walter, it didn't go wrong, but Ranieri's got that perfect balance between sort of the tactical side of the game and man management. And I think this side will only get better.
And also what I like about Ranieri is he saw the Liverpool game where we were we were very passive. We were quite very reactive. And he basically said, look, I'm not going to play like that again. Because not one performance really has been anywhere near like that. The way he set the team has been completely different. The way we've approached the game has been completely different. So he's learned from that.
Yeah, I think I think as well, we can all sort of forget that Liverpool game now. I think he probably used it as a way of learning about the players. Probably thought, all right, lads, lost 5-0, not good enough. But I think he forgot the result very quickly and said, now I know how I want to play. I know which of you are good, which of you are not. And then we win at Everton. What else could we won? Won at Everton and won yesterday as well. And there will probably be more wins coming over Christmas. So it's a promising time to be a Watford fan. And I'm looking forward to the Christmas period now.
Absolutely. Sam, look, before we wrap it up, Leicester next week, are you going?
Or... I will be there, of course. I don't think I'm missing a game now until Newcastle away in the middle of January, which is simply...
Sam, just to let everyone know, Sam is going to Burnley away on is it Wednesday night?
It's a Wednesday night, yeah. Leaving London at like 11 a.m. for a 7:45 kickoff. Can't wait for that.
Is it 11? Did you say 11 in the morning, mate? Cut out a bit.
Yeah, 11 in the morning for a 7:45 kickoff. Can't wait for that one.
Oh, there we go. I think we're back. Can you hear me, mate?
Yeah. I'm leaving at 11 a.m. for a 7:45 kickoff. So the things we do for the Orns, isn't it? Nightmare.
Yeah, mate, I love it. I love it from here. Big game at Leicester away. And look, mate, again, I'll back us to try and get something. I think we can, obviously the confidence is high at the minute and that result is only going to help. Look, thank you to everyone who joined us this evening. Really hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please leave a like. Comment down below your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We'll be back for a video after the Leicester game, unless something big happens in the meantime. You know what? Just to clarify, we used to do previews, but we felt like it's better just to do a longer video after the game, talking about if there is anything else apart from the game to talk about, rather than previewing it. But if there's any content that you like to see on the channel, then just drop me a message or drop WD18 message on Twitter at WD18fans. You can follow myself and Sam. I haven't got my app there, but it's Jacob_Culture and then Sam_Uco. But yeah, I think that's where we're going to wrap it up. Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure. Second win under Riccardo Ranieri. God, it feels good. Great win. Leicester next week. Up the Hornets. Cheers, guys. Take care of yourself. Have a great week.